What is up, boys? Happy to see
Woo!
everybody for another episode of the Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. Been a little while since we've been here. Figured we would reconvene the same way the team did. Camp broke on BG Obsession, and now we're full padded up and ready to go. As we get going, before we get really rolling, I'll remind you all to find us on all major audio platforms, youtube.com, Facebook, Instagram, all of that, as well as at the mothership, bgobsession.com. And just as a little bit of a peel back the curtain here, BG Obsession, we roll some major contests. So hop on over. All of them are free to join. I'm looking at the front page of the site right now. We have the crystal ball pool that Paul puts on. That crystal ball pool where you pick the entirety of the season over the now to see how it pans out. Literally came down to the Super Bowl last year between myself and Kel, if I'm remembering correctly. He had the Eagles, I had the Chiefs, or some variation of that. We have the 16th annual BGO Ballers Fantasy Football League. We have the Pick'em League that we run through the site, completely free to join. And I believe we're in the process of launching a Survivor League also through the site that will probably be on Yahoo or some form on that same sense, and some more details of that to come. So come by, all of them. Any members welcome, free to join. You just join through the site, do all that. We don't discriminate against anybody. So come over, hang out, and enjoy yourself in some contests.
I promise you, we are the only Commanders football site that offers. Not only do we not charge anything for registering or any of our content, but we have all of our contests are free. Literally all you have to do is click the register button and register. And like Derek said, we have some great fantasy football leagues. We've got NFL Pick'em where you pick every game every week. And our winners in that contest, we run 65 to 75% accuracy. So if you want to play a really competitive prediction, on every single game, every single NFL weekend, our NFL Pick'em contest, I don't think you're going to find a tougher competitive contest than that. And like you said, the crystal ball pool where you predict all the playoff teams and what will happen in the playoffs. And then the other one that you didn't mention, Derek, is we have a weekly Keys to a Win contest where we had a donor, one of our beloved members, Doc Sandy, who has been a Redskins fan for like 50 years. She passed away a year or so ago, but she had collected key rings, Redskins key rings that she had collected for literally she and her husband for 50 years. And we have probably 100 of those. So if you can correctly predict a key to a victory of an individual Washington game, you get your pick of one of those classic Washington key rings. So we
get pretty specific with that too, John. It's not just Jaden Daniels throws for 250 yards. It is
like
Jeremy
Jaden Daniels hits Zach Ertz on the game-winning drive
with 9 seconds to go to take the lead 31 to 30. Like they get pretty intense after a little while when the more people get involved. It's pretty fun to go through those.
But the bottom line is we have prizes for all of our contests, and we do that out of our pocket because we enjoy doing it. So all you got to do is come register and jump in, and more importantly, then you can post with us and become a part of our community.
One other small announcement: if anybody's listening and you're curious and you want to meet some people, BG Official Tailgate Game 2025 will be. John, tell me if I'm wrong here, but week 3, September 21st, 1 p.m. as we take on the Raiders. Is that correct?
The Raiders, yes, that's it.
So I'm going to try to get to that game. John's going to be there. There's going to be some other heavy-hitting members there. If you wanted to pop by, flag will be flying. Please come by, say what's up. More than welcome. So as we move on, fellas, it's not like there's too much to talk about, even though we haven't been together for a little while. But before we get into the weeds of the things, I would like to take a moment because we haven't had a conversation since the alternate uniform got released, and I know that's a hot button issue. I want to say that I think they knocked it out of the park. I think the alternate uniform they released is almost as perfect as it can get. It was the easiest decision to make. and it was the right one to make. But I'm curious, are you guys happy with it? Is it what you wanted? Did you want us to go in a different direction? What do you all think of the throwbacks, the alternate throwbacks that we're going to be wearing this year? Don't all speak at once.
I will start. I'm going to be honest with you. I probably shed a couple tears when I saw them because it is exactly what I wanted to happen when we went through this transformation of becoming Commanders or whomever. I wanted to still be able to see my team on TV. I grew up loving, obviously, the Washington Redskins. I have no local ties to the area. I'm a geographically displaced fan. But I fell in love with the Redskins as a kid. I fell in love with the colors. I fell in love with being able to see RFK Stadium on TV on Sundays and just seeing that end zone and just the optics and the visual appeal of that team was always a huge part of my fandom. And I can very easily say now that when I see the team playing on Sundays, and granted, it's only going to be a few weeks in this coming season. However, that being said, when I see that team on TV, underneath it all, I know that that is still my Washington Redskins, and that brings so much joy to me.
I think the uniform's got one problem, Derek. The word alternate.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be the alternate. It should be the uniform.
The full time. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's perfect. Take that one word out, and it's perfect.
Yeah. I think I know Galdi is. I'm not as emotionally invested into the look as most fans are, but I can appreciate that. I think the way Galdi has characterized it is it's probably the one thing that, with all the great things that the Harris Group has done since they came, it's probably the one thing where there is zero controversy. It's like everyone loved it or liked it, and that makes me happy. Even though I'm not as motivated by the uniforms and the symbology and stuff as other people are. But and I think what Bob said, I think what Galdi has kind of said is, look, this, and it's the alternate this year. It needs to be the primary next year. And I would even say that I would love to see a black version. And I'm wearing a black jersey, but I would love to see a black version of that uniform because I think the younger fans love the black alternate, and I would love to see that be the alternate, is a black version of it, because I think it would look pretty damn sharp. But
yeah, everything is the same except instead of a white jersey, it's a black jersey.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But yeah, like everyone else, it's kind of a no-brainer. It looks sharp. It's clean. Glad to have it back. And likewise, I think down the line it'll become our standard white jersey. But with the NFL, there's so many rules and procedures with jerseys and the number of alterations you can have and all that than do for this year. But I think eventually it will. And yeah, I have a black jersey too. I like them. I wouldn't be surprised if they tweak that for next year, and that's our next year's jersey.
I think the one thing that begs to be said is, why in God's name didn't Snyder? I mean, I know Snyder wasn't a particularly bright owner, but why in God's name, if you're gonna change the name, why wouldn't you just say, we're gonna try to make it as least disruptive as we can. We're gonna keep the Redskins uniform, but we're gonna swap the logo out. And I don't know. I think they tried to get too cute and too outsmarted themselves, because I'm not saying there wouldn't have been uproar, because there would have been. When Commanders came out, there was going to be uproar no matter what. And I think that's true. But I think it would have been less jarring if they hadn't rolled out 3 bizarre new uniforms. I mean, they just made it a lot worse than it needed to be.
Sure, but I can tell you why. Money. We're releasing 3 new uniforms. Look, everybody's going to go buy new gear. I didn't go buy new gear. And granted, I'd reached the point where I wasn't giving that man another red cent. You know, I wasn't wasting my money on him. I was saving it for the next guy. But I mean, I watch this happen every year in the English Premier League. They never wear the same uniforms 2 years in a row. The kit changes every year, and it's a money grab because the fans will go buy new kit every year. And I think he took a page out of the Premier League handbook and went, "Hey, let's just change all the uniforms up too. Everybody would go buy kit," and he was probably surprised at how much didn't sell.
One other thing to that, a little evolution to respond, John. I think it's twofold. One, I think it's because they were designed by people who had absolutely no touch with this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were designed by Jason Wright and Ron Rivera.
And Tanya Snyder.
Tanya, his wife.
Well, I think personally, I think the
NFL.
We can go down that rabbit hole. I think the NFL was behind all of it to get Snyder out, and I think it was intentional to whitewash and disconnect him from as much as far away from that franchise because it would be easier for him to agree to sell the team. That's just my personal opinion. So I think it was 1,000% intentional, and it's not surprising that we don't see it coming back a little bit more. But that's
look. Here's the final word for me on the uniforms. Yeah, I think the difference between the Harris Group and the previous ownership group is they may not always be able to do what the fans want, but they're trying to listen to the fans and deliver on what's important to the fans. And I think they deserve a lot of credit on that front because the last regime did not give a flip what the fans wanted or thought. So
speaking of throwbacks, this is an easy segue, I guess, to talk about one of the few guys on the roster that actually donned a Redskins uniform, who is a hot button issue right now. I think we're down to what? 4? Daron Payne, Tress Way, Jeremy Reeves, and Terry McLaurin, right? Are they the last 4 that actually wore the Redskins logo?
I think so. I think that's right.
So Terry McLaurin, obviously he is the subject right now in Washington sports. The contract circumstances, I think everybody has an opinion. John, you wanted to give a shout out to our boy Skins in Paradise, who has been on this podcast. He's been on the board for a while. He was a plant from that other board when it fell apart, and he's been a major contributor, which is kind of cool. But John, did you want to read his post?
Yeah, I just thought he did a really great job of summarizing it. And so, I mean, if you'll indulge me, I'm just going to read his post. It's a little bit long, but I thought it's the best summary of the situation that I've read. And he made it like an hour ago. So Skins in Paradise said, I think I can summarize it best this way. There are 3 approaches to a contract. A, I want to get that overpay. If I'm selling something on eBay, which I think I can get $200 for, I want to shoot for $250 and see where it goes. And in contract terms, I'm going to kick and scream and hold out and do whatever it takes, hard negotiation to get my overpay. Because heck, others got that overpay sometimes. Why not me? So that's the first scenario in a contract situation. Scenario B is I have a sense of the $200 value on eBay. Let's get the $200. If someone is willing to pay me more, fantastic. I'll ask for more, but it's clear it's not coming. I'll back off. And then there's scenario C. I love where I'm at. It's special, and I made plenty of big money. I'm good with taking $2 million or whatever less because I'm still getting paid big. But let's win a Super Bowl, and I'd rather stay here than go elsewhere. There are some dudes, not many, but some, who engage in plan C. Mike Evans doesn't scream to the world that he's a leader and a great teammate. He lets his actions do the talking about how much he does want to be in Tampa. Now, for Terry, I'm not expecting C, but look, if this dude is going to tout how special his intangibles are, and on the field and off the field, they clearly are special, then in my opinion, it diminishes it when you talk about that in the context of a price tag. And level B on negotiations, if your point is how much you love it in DC, Terry is at A. And I'd bet, considering what he said, including suggesting that asking for trade isn't off the table, that money comes before staying in DC. So he loves it here, I'm sure, but not like Evans and Godwin love being in Tampa. And again, I'm sure most players are like that, and I get it. It doesn't make them bad people. Most people would do the same. But if we're going to put Terry on a pedestal of being better than most, he's off that pedestal for me, and clearly some fans too. And if I'm Peters and I'm trying to build a culture, based on Terry's actions, he doesn't seem indispensable on that front. He ultimately wants guys like David, Godwin, Evans, all guys who talk about wanting to win a Super Bowl, loving it in Tampa, and willing to sacrifice a little to make it happen. Terry's a good culture guy, in my opinion, but not an elite culture guy, in my opinion. Those guys are elite judging by their actions. And if you aren't going to get a lot who sacrifice like that, but at a minimum, if I'm shooting for a Super Bowl, I want guys who are in category B, not category A. And while that seems a little harsh, I think it was pretty dead on kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, at a minimum, it's a data point, right? Terry McLaurin has put a lot of deposits in the bank about his personality, about his team first, about where he comes from. But now he's putting a different deposit in the bank with this negotiation, or at least that's what we're being led to understand. If you believe what Adam Schefter's reporting, that he wants considerably more than DK's contract. Now, I would be curious by, what do you mean by considerably more? Considerably bigger average annual value? A considerably larger guaranteed value? A considerably larger overall value? I would be curious. I would want that follow up. You know what I mean? Like, he might only want 30, but he wants it for 4 years, and he wants 90 million guaranteed of that $120 million deal, and that would be considerably more than DK's deal, but a lower annual average value. Because I think DK only got 60 million guaranteed. Only, slap my hand for saying only, but he of his deal, it was only 60 million guaranteed. So I would be curious what is the considerably more. But if all those reports are true, I'm right there with Sip. I'm saying, hey, dude, you've been the guy for a long time, but clearly this is not following that same track record.
What do you guys think about all that?
I think we all have opinions. I think none of us have all the information with which to form an opinion. Like, we don't know what the team has offered or hasn't offered, right? I mean, who knows where they are as far as contract negotiations are concerned. Neither side has actually thrown down hard numbers. Schefter's reporting something, and I feel fairly certain that Schefter got that from somebody who knows what they're talking about. But
I think you're probably right, Bob.
But I haven't seen anybody report what the team has offered.
Right.
Is it only $2 million, or is it $10 million, or $15 million? What's the difference? And the difference starts to get kind of real. The other thing that I don't feel like maybe that post took into account is McLaurin is probably looking at this and thinking it's more than likely his last contract, certainly his last big contract. He may play past this contract, but odds of him getting another big contract, this is his last opportunity to take money to the bank. Which is, I make considerably less than $30 million a year. So I'd be thrilled if they offered me 25, 28, 30. I'd take that and run, right? Because I make considerably less, but I am also not elite NFL wide receiver. Now, my question is, and unfortunately, I think Terry's real problem is his age versus a lot of other factors. The dude's going to be what, 30? He's 30 by the time the season opens, I think.
Yeah, I believe he turns 30 in mid-September. So it might not be before it opens, but it's very early in the season.
by NFL standards, did he earn $30 million a year last year? Yeah. Is he probably going to earn it this year? Yeah. My question is he going to earn it in 2 years or 3 years? And I don't know the answer to that question, and neither does Terry, and neither does
Well, we
Adam
know
Peters.
statistically what the answer is.
Yeah,
If we want to say Terry, as Terry has kind of put forward, that he's an outlier, but we know statistically, without question, wide receivers production drop off after
Yes.
the age of 30. That's
Yeah.
the fact.
Yep. And you know, I hate the fact that this is happening to Terry McLaurin. I really do, because he's been Mr. Franchise for us since he got here. He's been the classiest of class acts. And in all honesty, I don't consider what he's doing right now to be unclassy. I really don't. I don't think that this is a blight on his record. I think, it's nice to reference Godwin and Evans, but my guess is if you go back and look at Mike Evans, you're going to realize that Mike Evans probably got paid fairly well compared to the rest of his contemporaries throughout his entire career. He was a first-round draft pick. He made big money from day one. McLaurin was a third-round draft pick and had to earn his way to this point. There's some other factors that go into this for me. But I think the biggest issue is that McLaurin is hitting his 30th birthday and his last big contract at the same time that we got a real front office who doesn't work off nostalgia and emotion. And
right.
They love this kid. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Adam Peters and the whole crew love this guy, but they're not going to let that love cloud a business decision. They just aren't.
And especially, Bob, when you look at they can have him play his contract this year, franchise him, and still pay less than if they sign him for 2 years at $30 million. I mean, that's just common sense. It's like, we have you for 2 years, whether you like it or not. And I mean, setting aside how Terry feels about that, he's under contract potentially for 2 seasons at a bargain compared to what he's rumored. And you're right, we don't know what he's asking, but I think we have to assume he's asking for more than $30 million, based on what we've heard.
The last point that I've got, and I'll give it to whoever wants it after this, but the last point that I've got is one that I made a couple of times during the season last year. I feel like at least Terry's agent is playing this like McLaurin's the only proven wide receiver in this wide receiver room. And I don't think it matters who's in the wide receiver room. I really don't think it matters. Jaden Daniels plays with his hair on fire all the time. He is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL today. And if he keeps playing this way, he's going to have one of the greatest career accuracy records in the league when he hangs it up in history, right? I don't think it matters. And I think the front office is looking at this and going, we don't have to have big name, big money wide receivers necessarily. We have to have guys that can catch the football when it hits them in the hands, period. And we will keep moving the sticks because Jaden Daniels is just that good, and he will make average wide receivers great and great wide receivers historic. And if they don't think McLaurin's the guy, they're going to offer him what they think he's worth, and and if he doesn't want it, they'll move on at some point in time.
Yeah, that's really great. Good stuff, Bob.
Yeah, I think I think there's a number of things there. Like Bob touched on, other than the Schefter report, we don't actually know anything true or any hard numbers. And as this front office has shown, they don't release anything. Like whenever there's an extension or the 2 trades, they just came out the blue. There was no insider that had any information the days leading up to it. And then also one thing we got to remember, we haven't even had our first preseason game yet. So there's still time. I know it's easy to get spun up about it, but there's still plenty of time for a deal to get worked out. And then lastly, also, I saw that Terry is by far his agent's like best client. So the agent, I'm sure, is probably even more aggressive, knowing that this is his best chance at his biggest payday himself. Yep. So that's like another little thing to think about there. But hopefully all sides will come together and I think it will. I still think it will. It's just taking time for it to play out, and some of the dominoes had to fall too, like Metcalf, and then Sutton just got his deal, and so that's more information and more data points for Peters and everyone to go by.
Tony, sorry, go Paul, what do you think, brother? And then I'll get to my point.
Yeah, I'm going to make it pretty short because, I mean, you guys have, addressed pretty much all of it, covered all of it for the most part. The one thing I do want to say is when you think back to Terry McLaurin's contract that he previously signed, I believe in 2022, 3 years, $68 million. Some people at that time would have argued, and I think it was a pretty legitimate argument, that maybe at the time that he was being somewhat overpaid at that time.
Yep.
And we were paying a premium for him at the time because, Dan Snyder probably needed some good PR at the time. Do what you need to do to keep this guy in the building and have a good feel-good story. But I also feel that contract at the time was partially rewarding Terry McLaurin for being the good soldier, for being the consummate pro, for being the class act, the high character guy. And some of the things that I'm hearing him say now is much of the same. Like, hey, I've done everything they've asked me to do. I've stuck it out through the tough years. I've been, everything that this franchise has wanted me to be. And I feel like now he's kind of circling back and wanting to be rewarded again for the character. Well, we've already paid you for being that great high character guy. Now we need to pay you for being a football player. And granted, he's a great football player, but we have to make a football decision at this point in the game. And as a result, I fully side with the stance that the team is making at this point.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Paul. And I'll just close it out by saying I am like all of us. I love Terry McLaurin. I mean, I really love him, and I will, like Paul talks about, I will cry if he doesn't finish his career in Washington, because I think that would be a shame. But I think where he kind of lost me a little bit is when he started talking about how, on the one hand, he said it's a business. I understand that, but then he launches into, I feel disrespected. It's like, come on, Adam Peters and all of the coaches there, they absolutely respect Terry McLaurin, and they love Terry McLaurin, and they know who he is and what he is. I don't think there's any question about that. So that's the only thing that kind of made me cringe a little bit. Like, oh, come on, man. Your agent is a punk who's looking for a big payday. Like, don't listen to what he's telling you, because the team will pay you. They'll meet you somewhere in that middle, but not if you start talking like making it personal and, trying to play the victim card. Come on. I mean, they want to pay you really great money for being a really great wide receiver and a great commander, but get out of your own way and let them do that. Like, come on. So I hope they work it out. Right now, I'm probably the least optimistic of all of us that it's going to get done because of what I said, because they own him in 2025. And if they want to own his contract in 2026, they can slap that franchise tag on him. And now you've got Terry McLaurin at age 32 plus looking for another contract. And then your age, I don't care what you say, your age is a huge factor at that point. So I don't think he has a lot of leverage. And I think he's kind of overplayed his hand a little bit, to be honest with you.
And one more point on this. Schefter said he wants considerably more than DK Metcalf. So let's say that you want to comp Terry and DK. They were both taken in the same draft. DK is actually 2 years younger. They were both taken in 2019, so they have the same NFL experience. I would say that I don't know that DK has lived up to the hype coming out of college, but he is a premium receiver. But you start to wonder if Adam Peters is looking at that, or Adam Peters and company, because technically it's not Peters. I don't think it's the numbers guy or whatever negotiating. But then they look at DK's contract and they say he got overpaid. So why are they gonna then overpay because someone else overpaid? They might value DK somewhere at 28 to 29 million a year, and thinking, comparably speaking, that's where Terry is. So I say all that.
Derek, go ahead, man. Sorry.
I was gonna say. So I say all that to bring up a couple points. One, it feels damn good that we've got responsible people in the front office managing these kind of things. The objectivity, Paul, you brought it to the point you brought up, that now we have adults in the room, right? They're doing things that are business decisions. They're doing things that are right, that they believe are right. They have a plan in place. They're following that plan, and they're going to follow that plan. They're not going to let emotions or anything swing it. And two, how damn good is it not to have the owner jumping in and involving themselves in negotiations? It's football people making football decisions, right?
Yeah. Amen on that.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Harris has a vested interest and he's checking in on it and he wants to know, but it's not Harris walking in and say, get the deal done. This guy's going to sell jerseys. We need to make this happen. I don't care what you have to do. Figure it out. It's not how it's abundantly clear that's not happening. The ownership group is not involving themselves. They're not pressing the buttons to say, this is how it's got to work. It's football people building a roster, making football decisions. They're getting trusted to do their job. And I love to see it. And unfortunately, it might mean that Terry McLaurin doesn't retire as a commander, right? And I think we all would like that to happen. But if it comes down to a line in the sand, I just don't know. You know what I mean? This is how good front offices work.
Yeah, and I just want to circle back around to something Bob said, because Bob started with, and he's 1,000% right, is we don't know. We really don't know what's been offered and what hasn't. But I just want to throw one other little thing out there, is we're focused on like the dollar amount, the annual salary. And maybe, one thing we do know about Adam Peters is he doesn't like to sign anyone for more than 2 years. I don't care who you are. I think John Bates was like the last guy I heard that like got a 3-year deal. Everyone else.
Kinlaw got a 3-year deal. Bates got a 3-year deal. Luvu got a 3-year deal.
There aren't many of them, though, is the point.
But I think that's it.
It might be the duration of the contract that's the big sticking point, not the annual salary. So
because that's what I said. That's what I meant when they said considerably more. He wants considerably more than the DK Metcalf. Is it the whole annual? Is it the whole value of the deal? We're willing to give you 32, but it's only going to be for 2 seasons, man. You know what I mean? And if that's the case, then it's only a $64 million extension, and he feels disrespected that he's not getting 100. Who knows?
Or his agent does, yeah. One of those two.
How much of it? And to your point, I'm wondering how much of this is the agent's. Like, at what point does the agent look at Terry McLaurin and say, "Hey, this is what your value is, not your worth, your value. This is what the market dictates you're going to get paid."
Yeah, but see, that comes back to Tony's point, and it's been reported multiple times that this agent doesn't really have any big time clients other than McLaurin. Yeah. He's not a top tier agent. This is not Drew Rosenhaus we're talking about here,
right?
And he's to be square, the agent's looking at this and thinking, this is my biggest payday too. Not just this is my client's biggest payday, but it's my biggest payday. Rosenhaus has plenty of money.
I don't think the presser, I don't think that served him well. And I think the Schefter tweet this week was a direct result. It was a direct response to that scheduled presser that Terry did, where he said, where he went on and on about how he felt and how he felt disrespected, etc. I think that wasn't probably I personally don't think that was the best call. But I'm not an NFL player looking for a contract extension either.
All right, fellas. We can move on to some actual football going on. We have now broken camp. We have broken camp, I guess. Teams had full pads yesterday for the first time, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
Yesterday. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt going on around camp, and I have been hearing a lot of positivity. I just curious, before I won't throw any out, but I'm just curious, what have you guys heard, or what is the what are the headlines or the reports that are jumping off the page at you guys? Because I'm curious to see what's appealing to you and if it lines up with what appeals to me. Paul, what's your favorite thing you've heard so far?
So the thing that immediately came to mind for me in regards to your question would be the play of our secondary and the potential for our secondary. When you think back to last season, who we trotted out there at the beginning of the year, we were talking about guys like Benjamin St. Juste starting. We had Michael Davis here. It was an absolute mess. And if Marshawn Lattimore can become the Marshawn Lattimore that we think he can be, and if, Sainris still continues on the path that he established last year, if Trey Amos can come in and be someone that you feel comfortable manning up against receivers on the outside, I think that helps our pass rush in an enormous way. It allows Joe Witt flexibility to do all sorts of things that he wants to do up front. I just really like the depth that we've been able to establish in our defensive secondary in such a short span of time. And I think that they can be some huge difference makers this year. So I really like what I've been hearing in regards to our secondary. And not only that, how Will Harris has fit in, how Quan Martin continues to sound like he's going to continue to be a solid player for us. I just think there's a lot of potential for vast improvement in a defensive secondary in 2025.
What about you, Bob?
I think the coolest thing I've seen outside of the secondary, because that was my first answer as well. But so chalk one up for Paul for hitting that one out.
He hit you with the Uno reverse card.
yeah, exactly. But I think the reports I'm seeing about Luke McCaffrey turning heads. That McCaffrey has apparently spent a tremendous amount of time in the offseason working. I'm guessing probably with dad and brother and who knows who else. And that he is absolutely turning some heads in training camp, and that this might actually be the year. I'm excited. He was an exciting kid. I felt like maybe we overdrafted him a little bit, but again, another one of those really high character guys. And what I really loved about him was that he did whatever he was asked last year. He didn't care. And he actually brought some real life to the return game. I don't know whether he'll play in the return game this year or not, but I'm kind of hoping that he's going to catch a bunch of people by surprise out of the slot, and I think that slot position can be a huge position with a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, who sees the whole field and understands what's going on as a second-year guy. So kind of excited about that.
I like that. Tony, what you got, brother?
I was actually able to go to the first camp that open to the public, and it was a good time. And Jaden looked sharp. Jalen Lane, he looked really good too. For practice, I feel like he's a weapon that we'll be able to find spots for. He had a really cool over the top catch in the end zone, and on special teams, we'll see where he fits in on punt return or what have you. And then on the defensive line, just you could see just the size of the players are more substantial this year with the guys they brought in. And Kinlaw, seeing him in person, that's just a huge human being. There's only got to be like a small percentage of people that can get to that size. That's a fucking huge dude. It was we were like, oh my God.
Kinlaw eats cereal without opening the box. That's the
yeah. First looked good. He looks like a steady veteran. And then I also forgot we signed Josh Johnson. He was scrambling around, doing his thing when it was like the third team out there. But it was just exciting to see the team and be around the fans. And Jason Garrett came out. I guess he's like looking for a job or who knows what he's doing. And it was just like a chorus of boos from each part of the stadium or the stands that he walked by.
As he's walking by, everybody's
Yeah,
booing him. It's fantastic.
It was great.
He must have felt like he was right back in Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. Right at home.
Yeah.
All
What about
right,
you, John?
So I've heard a lot. I've listened to like every Dan Quinn. By the way, every Dan Quinn comment. We are so lucky to have Dan Quinn, man. I will never. I mean, if there was ever a moment of shut the fuck up, fans, you don't know what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Moment when we all want a Ben Johnson or some other, coach or
We did it on this podcast. On this podcast, we did it.
I've already forgotten the Ravens coach, the defensive coordinator's name, but anyway, I think we're so lucky to have Dan Quinn. But he has talked a lot about Sennett and McCaffrey as the guys that have like stepped it up from last year. I'm a little skeptical of that only because it's like, well, you guys drafted them. Of course you don't want them. Of course you want them to like break out in their second season. But I do trust Dan Quinn that those guys look different this season. I'm surprised no one's mentioned Ja'Cory. I have to look at his name because I cannot.
Krosky Merritt. I was waiting.
Call him Bill.
I was waiting.
But I have seen clips of that guy making cuts that I'm like, I'm watching you and my shorts fell off the other direction. He just has the ability, like he's a really aggressive running back, and he does not, when he gets hit, he does not stop. So I'm really excited. I think he might be our starting. I'm sorry for all you Brian Robinson Jr. fans, but I think he's going to be our starting running back in 2025. I've heard a lot of talk about San Ristel, how he, as good as he was in his rookie year, he looks even better now. And especially on, like Quinn has talked a lot about him kind of being more of a leader, like being more of an upfront leader than he was in his rookie year. And then you guys mentioned the secondary. Deebo Samuel, he's doing kickoff returns, I heard, which that's a pretty exciting idea. I wouldn't want to cover Deebo Samuel's on a kickoff return. I don't know if he did that in San Francisco or not, but that is an exciting prospect.
I think that's kind of along the lines of like a Deshaun Jackson, where it's like if you need a play, you put him back there, and you know what I mean. You just let him be that cannonball. And
then the one guy I just wanted to mention, because no one else will ever mention him, is Chris Moore, who has kind of bounced around the league. I think he spent his first like 3 or 4 years with the Ravens, who may have drafted him. I'm not sure about that, but he's kind of bounced around. But he's a wide receiver that he's kind of been a little bit of a camp darling, making a lot of plays. So I always we need that 6, 7, 8 wide receiver, guys that can actually play when they get in the game. So I've heard a lot of good things about him. And Trey Amos, I think Trey Amos is going to start. I think he's going to be on the outside, and they're going to move San Ristel inside. But that's just my guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you guys touched on pretty much all of them that I was going to talk about. John, you jumped on Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I was interested to see if anybody brought him up because I've been hearing a lot of good things about him. Apparently, there was a play yesterday when they were in pads for the first time where he went through the middle, and him and Tyler Owens met about 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, and they said it was a thump like they haven't heard in a long time. And neither one of them hit the ground. They bounced off each other. So that was pretty cool to hear. I've been hearing a lot of good things about Amos. Devo, our buddy Skins in Paradise was at camp the other day. He said that Jalen Lane has a gear that he hasn't seen since Deshaun Jackson, and said he took an end around and he hit the throttle and it was just different. You know what I mean? Like just that different kind of speed. So I'm curious to see what happens there.
Did he run in the right direction though? Because I know he's a Virginia Tech guy.
Oh, this guy.
Oh,
he turned around.
A UVA fan, of course.
Hey, John. Somewhere in Germany, Mark just sat bolt upright in bed. He doesn't know why yet.
I have to pick my moments to talk smack about football when I'm a UVA fan. Trust me. So
back to what I was saying about Jalen Lane, who But then beyond that, I've heard a lot of positives about Ja'Cory Brooks, our undrafted free agent wide receiver, who's like 6'4" and just a mountain of a human. He's been putting in a lot of work. Dietrich Wise has been flashing a little bit on that interior, a little odd. And then nobody, I can't believe it, has brought up the fact that we signed a Hall of Famer in the past 2 weeks to be our situational pass
Good
rusher.
God, Von Miller.
Oh,
Von Miller is now suiting up for the burgundy and gold. And you want to talk about a deal? If you listen to his intro presser when they were talking to him, he basically laid it out there, and he said he's chasing a ring. He said you don't just leave Josh Allen for nothing. He said he wanted to come here. This is where it wanted to be. Which another thing that I think is cool as hell about that is apparently he came and had a visit 2 months ago, and nobody had a freaking clue about it. You know what I mean? So again, more
Another
adults are in the
example.
room.
Yeah.
So I thought that was awesome.
We need to get him in a room. We need to get him in a room with Terry McLaurin, man, because that's the one thing. Not to go back to the McLaurin conversation,
Right, but that's the point,
dude. You've got Jaden Daniels. You could have like 3 career seasons with Jaden Daniels and potentially go to a Super Bowl and maybe even win one. Come on, man, get on the train. Let's go.
But so I've been hearing some good things about Connerly. He has not been slotted as a starting right tackle. Wiley was, so they're going to make Connerly earn it. And then I heard some good things about Tunsil. There was a report of a play where like Dorrance Armstrong was rushing and Tunsil just stonewalled him, and there was nothing he could do about it. He tried to spin move, he tried to swim, he tried to do, and Tunsil was there. He was right, and he just looks the part. Like so. I'm excited about a lot of what you're hearing, but of course, it's one step up from the underwear Olympics, right? We're in training camp. Like so.
And Sam Cosme, I know Cosme. I don't think Cosme like stepped on the field, but I think what's exciting is what we're hearing is Cosme might be ready at like pretty quickly.
Had a schedule, yeah.
So that's
which is just awesome, because then you raise the floor of everything. If Cosme's your starting guard by week 3, and then you've got some additional backup depth there, that is just huge. We're only 9 days away from our first preseason game, right? Isn't it next Saturday or next Friday night?
Yeah,
I think it's Friday next week. Yeah,
I think it's next Friday.
There's
a game tomorrow, boys. Like the Hall of Fame game is tomorrow. So we are here. Like it's go time into the team. And I don't know if we talked about this. We are the in-season Hard Knocks team. We're the in-season Hard Knocks division. So we're going to even get a deeper dive into behind the scenes, which I think I'm excited for. I know there's concern of it being.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
I know there's concern of it being distraction, but I pump all of the inside information right into my vein, right? The IV, just pump it in. Just give it all to me. You know what I mean? Like, I want more.
Yeah. I don't actually think nowadays this kind of thing isn't a distraction because every team has their own in-house social media and
so there's cameras there.
There's cameras there all the time anyway, so I don't think the distraction part will be a big deal.
Right.
But yeah, I'm excited for that.
Oh, and by the way, Jaden Daniels is under center for us for the next decade. So that's
I sat here and listened to everybody go through the things that they're excited about from training camp, and all I could think was, how long has it been since we were all ho-hum about the quarterback position? Because it was all sewn up, and we knew who the guy was, and we didn't have to worry about it, so we could focus on everybody else.
You mean you're not excited to see if Sam Hartman can battle for
Hey Bob, 2 seasons ago we were heavily debating at this point in the podcast whether Ryan Fitzpatrick injured his hip and ended his career at a water slide or not.
I know.
Yeah.
And
We're,
whether
like, talking ourselves into like Colt McCoy or something.
whether Heineke was our long-term starter or that fifth rounder named Sam Howell had a chance to be the guy.
Yeah. You know, I
Yeah.
just find
I know.
the different feeling, and it is a totally different feeling when you know that position is sewn up. And most of us haven't experienced this since
Ever.
if we're being generous, the days of Brad Johnson, because there wasn't anybody else on the team who was as good as Brad Johnson, and we knew that.
I would say I would go back to Rippon. I don't think we felt this way since.
But even Rippon wasn't like he wasn't even. You didn't look at him as a decade long starter.
No, I think the last time we went into training camp without any questions at the quarterback position was the last year Joey T started.
Probably right. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, that's been 40 years.
Well, we all have that feeling now that look, I think we've got our guy. Good or bad, whatever happens over the next 4 years, that we've got our guy.
Listen, I'm just going to mention this. I mentioned it before we started. Last week I was in Berlin for reasons I won't bore you with. And a guy approached me in the Berlin airport because I had a Commander's hat on, and he had a Commander's hat on. I mean, that just didn't happen prior. I mean, I wouldn't have had my Washington hat on overseas, but
the question was he German or was he a plant?
No, he was American.
Okay.
The level of enthusiasm when he saw the W, I mean, I was really concerned. Like, why is this guy coming at me? He had an all-white hat with a white Commanders logo on it, which I had not seen before. So it took me a second to figure out. Oh, he's a Washington fan. He's not gonna accost me. He wants to talk about Jaden Daniels. So we did. We talked about Jaden Daniels.
Did you hug him like you've been known to do with other fans?
Yes.
All right, fellas. I guess we can wrap this thing in about an hour. It's been, of course, there's like 15 more topics we could get to that we can put a peg in. RFK deals coming. They're going to have a vote Friday, the initial vote, and then they have another vote in September. From what I've heard, they were at the DC City Council meeting today, lobbying, and our Mike Strauss, right? That's our team president now. The Campbell's food guy, I think his name is Strauss, was there lobbying. So there's been a lot of movement there. It looks like that's moving in the right direction. And among other things, it's, knock on wood, this has been an enjoyable, outside of the McLaurin situation, we're having a lot of fun, man, and I'm excited. It's going to be an exciting season. And we didn't even talk about guys like Michael Gallup or Noah Brown. The fact that Noah Brown didn't miss any time after he got carted off the field in the OTAs.
Oh, yeah, man, I forgot about him.
Right. Like, he was out a full participant in practice he's been a full participant in training camp. Like, so there's a lot going on. Nobody's talking about Eckler. Nobody talked about Brian Robinson. Nobody talked about the fact that Sam Hartman might be our fourth quarterback and he might not even make the roster because you got Josh Johnson and Mariota under deal. I mean, we might go into the training camp with 10 or 11 receivers, and there might be a legitimate battle for guys who can actually play. You know what I mean, on that back end. And defense in the Nate Herbig announced his retirement. Not a big deal. Defensively, I wonder when. Oh my gosh, I'm spacing on his name. Rookie from last year that got hurt, Jordan McGee.
Yeah.
He's buried in the depth chart, but it looks like, behind Wagner, and both Wagner and Luvu made the top 100 NFL players this year. Right. They were both in the 70s, which, when was the last time that happened? Daron Payne, I think he's entering the last year of his real money deal.
Daron Payne has been getting a lot of praise in camp. That's another guy we should have mentioned, but he's really Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. They're super high on what they're seeing from Jerome Payne for what that's worth.
Yep. So it has been an interesting camp. We look deep for the first time in a long time. I mean, you start layering it out, and you wonder if that's, where they stand with Terry. It's building that, where you start to look at things and you don't. How many times have we gone into camp and we said, yeah, if this guy gets hurt, we're screwed, right? Like, there's not a lot of places right now that you look at like that. Knock on wood. I don't want to test the theory, but there's some depth there. So it's exciting. We're going to get back to doing once a week, I think, right?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll put it down for 8:30 next week. We'll start recording another one, get it up tonight or next Wednesday night, up for Thursday morning early. So, gentlemen, as always, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy mixing it up. And if you just now got to us, hook us up with a like, a follow, and a share. You're always welcome around bgobsession.com. And as always, that'll do, pigs. That'll do.